Science Unscripted.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Science Unscripted. It's Connor here.
And Gabe.
And it's time to out myself right here and right now as what I am. I'm an atheist. And I hope you're not offended by me using the term out myself, but I think that's the closest I can come to saying what it feels like to acknowledge that fact and to tell people that. As strange as it sounds, that's what I am. And Gabe, you are not an atheist. You're
I'm confused. It's a question. It's a really, really, really hard question for me. I don't know how to answer the question. Does God exist?
Because you're of the opinion that human
beings.
I've
tried really, really hard to believe. I had a teacher in high school who, if anyone on earth could make a good argument for being a Christian, he was the guy, and I tried for a long time.
But if you tried and failed, wouldn't that place you on the side of atheism?
Yeah, but I still can't.
You can't
I
go
still
there.
can't say it.
You can't say the word.
That's what this interview is going to be about today. We're going to be speaking with a guy named Will Gervais, who studies atheism from a psychological perspective, and his recent work looks into where atheists come from. What are the deciding factors that will lead to you, for instance, being able to come out and say that?
Yeah, and why do I feel like it's risky saying that? And I'm looking at the camera right now, and I know that putting this on YouTube or as a podcast feels like there are going to be consequences. Why is that? Why do I feel like this is kind of dangerous saying it out loud? I don't know.
Because there are consequences, and it is socially dangerous.
Science Unscripted.
Hi, my name's Will Gervais. I'm a psychologist at the Center for Culture and Evolution at Brunel University, London. And my colleagues and I do a lot of research on atheism.
We've got Connor Dillon right here, sharp as a tack.
Thank you, Gabe.
Grew up Catholic and is an atheist. So where does he fit into the puzzle?
Yeah, this is really puzzling to me because, whenever I talk to atheist groups or talk about my research to atheists, people there's this consistent narrative that I'm an atheist because I'm so rational. And, I'll talk to people who have stories of, we grew up handling snakes in the Bible Belt in the US to prove our faith. So people who were really strongly brought up to be religious who are now atheists. And so that's a really compelling narrative, but it doesn't show up super strongly in kind of our large aggregate patterns. And that kind of gets compounded then if we look at global predictors of atheism, where atheism, it's really clustered differently across countries. So most atheists just kind of grew up somewhere where there's not that much cultural support for religion.
You did your latest study in the United States, right?
Correct, yeah.
What is the social perception of atheism there? If I come out and say it, I'm an atheist, what's your average person going to think of me?
Yeah, public perception of atheists, it's not great. So people have really strong negative perceptions of atheists. One way that, for instance, like Gallup or Pew, these big scale polling companies, they'll look for cultural inclusion of different groups, and they'll say, all right, would you vote for a well-qualified member of your own preferred political party if they happen to be whatever? Then you plug in different groups and see who people say they'd vote for. And polls consistently show, for instance, at least in the US, people say, sure, I'd vote for a Black candidate or a Catholic candidate or a Jewish candidate or a gay candidate. And atheists always come in kind of at the bottom of those polls. So for years, they were the only group that they regularly included that couldn't get a majority of people to say, sure, I'd vote for them. And the public perception, it turns out it's, I think, markedly worse than just saying I wouldn't vote for these people. We found evidence of pretty widespread moral distrust of atheists. I could elaborate on that research if you'd like to kind of show you just how bad it can get.
Yeah, please. I would love to know, what happened by declaring myself an atheist. What sort of associations people would make of me?
Yeah, what have you signed up for? So people's kind of automatic knee-jerk gut level associations with atheism is they seem to intuitively assume that atheists are moral wild cards who we can't trust. So one way we've looked at this is we'll describe people doing immoral stuff, and then we kind of do sneaky experimental tasks to see who they intuitively assume the perpetrator was. So we could describe somebody who's we've described a brother and sister backpacking around Europe, and they decide to have sex with each other just for fun. We describe somebody who, as he grows up, he enjoys hurting animals. So he like tortures cats around the neighborhood. And as he gets older, he doesn't really get too much thrill from that. So he starts hurting people. And he currently has the disembodied bodies of 5 homeless people buried in his basement. And then we just kind of see who people think the perpetrator is. And that one, across 13 countries, people consistently thought that that perpetrator doesn't believe in God. So by saying, hey, I'm an atheist now, that's kind of the baggage that you've just picked up.
Can I ask who's your fiction writer? These scenarios are incredibly elaborate. No, but regardless of who's writing them, why are they making these associations? I guess the first question we have to ask is there any valid reason, any data to support the idea that, yes, maybe it's true, maybe people who don't believe in any sort of God do engage in those activities more? Is that true at all?
You mean incest and psychopathy?
And cannibalism? Is that a thing? Is that I don't know.
So I don't have perfect data on who's engaging in incest. But at least if we look at large scale patterns in kind of moral behavior and moral decision making, it doesn't look like there's like huge differences where the atheists are actually saying, yeah, I'd like to try incest. So the question then is, how did we get these associations? Why do people intuitively link religion and morality so tightly? And I think that one, our best answer is kind of a cultural evolutionary story where a key kind of evolutionary problem that humans have is cooperating with each other. So how can I trust that somebody else is being honest and that they'll help me out? And it turns out that some types of religious beliefs are really good for kind of bringing groups together. And this includes belief in a moralizing God. So if I'm not sure if I can trust one of you guys, but I know that you believe in a God and you think that God's going to punish you if you don't follow through on your commitments, now I can trust you. So we can use kind of belief in a moralizing God as a proxy to who we can trust and who's going to be moral. So if we have kind of cultural structures that have evolved over millennia where religion is kind of the guarantor of morality, that's going to leave lingering associations where currently, whether or not I believe in God, I might still hold these latent intuitive level associations between religion and morality.
There is a real cost to declaring yourself an atheist, to outing yourself as an atheist in a way. I guess my question is it possible that there are a lot more atheists out there who just haven't come to the realization that you just mentioned, or who kind of intuitively know without saying it that this is going to be painful. I'm going to disappoint my parents, and some of their friends and people I know, and other people are going to look at me like, hey, you're an immoral, cannibalistic murder. You know what I mean? Is it possible that the numbers are higher than we realize?
Yeah, so absolutely. I suspect that the numbers are higher than we realize. And so we've done a bit of research in the United States where we've actually tried to look at this. We thought, all right, we know that religion is so intuitively bundled up with morality in people's minds. And a lot of people might know that atheism is such a stigmatized category that they might not just be reluctant to, say, tell their family that they're an atheist, but they might be reluctant to even anonymously out themselves as an atheist to some pollster at Gallup and Pew who's asking about religion. So we have some work using kind of an indirect measurement tool to guess how many atheists there are. And at least when we ran it, Gallup and Pew were saying, all right, maybe it's 11 to 15% of people in America don't believe in God. With our kind of sneaky indirect measure, we were able to bump that up to 25, 26%. So there might be a lot more atheists than we're realizing. And I suspect it's for the reasons you mentioned, that it's socially loaded. People don't want to let family down. And we're all aware of these kind of negative perceptions that people have of atheists.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just used the word to out yourself as an atheist. Is that really what it is? Like, if you say that, it is almost like you're coming out of the closet.
I felt like that when I said that. Yeah,
did
it
you?
felt like that. It felt like a big revelation. I have no comparison to what it's like for somebody who's dealing with their sexuality, but that was the closest I felt that I came to to a moment like that. Yeah.
What was that like?
Awkward. Like the air got sucked out of the room. I remember talking to my mom and saying it, and it was like, I don't think I made eye contact when I said it. I think I was looking away.
Because of shame.
It was hard. It's hard. You feel like you're disappointing someone. You're disappointing your parents. You're making them feel disappointed in you. And also, we have enough empathy to kind of put ourselves in their position. What are they thinking about me? Well, this kid's going to hell. I mean, I don't think they don't believe it that way, but
wow.
It's a lot.
And once one of your kids comes out as an atheist, you have to keep them away from your other kids because of the incest.
Exactly. Yeah, send that one off to a different country. Send him to Germany.
We're joking around here, but this seems like real emotional strife. Is that what people go through when they out themselves as an atheist? Do you know anything about that as a psychologist?
I haven't directly done some of that research, but I'm familiar with some people who have. And yeah, they say it's at least a somewhat parallel process of like coming out as gay. Is essentially you're admitting something about your inner life that conflicts with kind of your community standards that you were raised with. And you're worried that this might sever an important tie in your life to family or friends or whatever. So it can be kind of profoundly nerve-wracking, if not traumatizing, to go through the process, especially if the people you're coming out to wouldn't be supportive of it. So I don't have like a big concrete memory of like coming out to my parents about it. But I suspect, it probably came up over beers or something and chatting about it. And yeah, it was awkward. But yeah, they were open and accepting. And I suspect I have a lot of friends and relatives who, they know what I study. So they'll get a couple cocktails in them and kind of say, I wouldn't say I'm an atheist, but I don't think I really believe in God. So that'll come up from time to time.
The latest data, or at least the headlines that I've seen, has seemed to indicate that younger generations are increasingly atheistic, that they don't believe in God. And of course, one of Germany's most famous philosophical exports, or philosophers period, Nietzsche, said that, 150 years ago, God is dead. And is that happening? Is that the future we're heading toward, that each generation is going to become increasingly atheistic? And I don't know, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 500 years from now, we'll look back on this period of time the way that a lot of us look back on, I don't know, the Greco-Roman period and all of these gods, a sun god, a wind god, something like that?
I think that religions are just too good a fits for the minds that we've evolved as a species to ever go away completely. And then on the cultural evolutionary side, the religions that are out there have proven to be really successful at kind of giving people things that they need in terms of, comfort and cooperation. So I don't think they'll go away anytime soon. But at the beginning of that question, you mentioned that we do see declining numbers and kind of generational gaps in large parts of the world. And so I think we are seeing in a lot of places kind of an erosion of the cultural support that propped religion up in the first place. And it looks like kind of a two-stage process where we see rising economic conditions and kind of existential security, so things like health, wealth, education. When you have that, it looks like you have a generation of people who privately believe in religion, but they're just kind of demotivated by it. So they stop going to church as much, they stop tithing, they stop doing these big visible displays. And then you have a second generation who grows up not seeing these kind of credibility enhancing displays of religious faith, and they might grow up to just not be religious. So we are seeing these trends towards secularization in a lot of places, but I don't think it'll be complete. I don't think, some economic advance is going to come and all of the world's religions pack up shop and go home. It's just not going to happen. We're not built that way.
Science Unscripted.
Yeah, that was Will Gervais.
Yeah.
On the question that will forever be a part of our species.
The biggest topic there
it will
is.
never disappear.
Is there a
from
bigger
the
topic?
The human thing.
Is there a bigger topic than God? Something that more of us disagree about and yell about and have fought about over the last centuries? I don't think so. Of all the things that he said, and he said a lot of really fascinating things, especially regarding cannibalism, that one will always stick with me. The one that really sticks with me is the fact that there are probably more of us out there, more atheists than even atheists realize, because there's a negative association with the word and people kind of hide that fact. And there is comfort in knowing there are more people out there, and the more people who come out and say that I'm an atheist, the more you kind of pave the way for future atheists and make it easier for them to not feel as bad or as ostracized or as outcast when they say it. So I guess that's I'm not trying to convert people here, but just to encourage you to feel comfortable trusting your own instincts, I guess, or trusting your own thoughts, or analyzing yourself and figuring out who you really are, as opposed to, the person that maybe your family members or the people around you expected you to become. We would love to hear from you.
Regardless of where you stand on the fundamental question, whether you hate Connor for outing himself, whether you're as confused as I am, or it's crystal clear to you, we'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, leave a comment for us on YouTube if that's where you're watching this or listening to this. If that's too public, because yes, your name will appear right next to it, or at least your account name. You can also get in touch with us. We are su@dw.com.
Science unscripted.